Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going through all of the books that I read in the month of May. Also, want to apologize for the lighting. It's like 6 p.m. so the lighting's kind of weird. If it changes throughout the video, I'm sorry. Also, my hair is kind of frizzy. It's hair washing day. We're just having a day today. But anyways, I'm going to be doing my monthly wrap up. I know I'm a little late. I've been super busy. Saw Taylor Swift over the weekend, which I'm going to be posting the vlog for that because it was incredible. Like literally life-changing experience. But today I thought I would talk to you about all the books that I read in the month of May. I mentioned quite a few of these in my book haul that I posted last week, but today I'm going to be kind of going more in depth, talking about them, my thoughts, my opinions, what I rated them, all that good stuff. If you want to see what I'm reading each month and see what my ratings are and books I've read previously, I have my Goodreads linked down below. I'm like obsessed with Goodreads. I am like constantly stalking my friends on Goodreads, seeing what they're reading, like getting book recommendations. So I'm obsessed. If you don't have a Goodreads account, you should get one immediately. Anyways, I am going to share all the books that I read. I read 9 books this month, which I think is pretty good month for me. I did have quite a bit going on, but I still was able to get in 9 books. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I would say I liked pretty much all the books I read. I think there were like 2 that were my favorite, but other than that, I really enjoyed them. So yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right in. First book I read is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. So I have heard literally so many people talk about this book. It like blew up on Book Talk. It was the book of the month, book of the year last year. I got this a couple months ago and I've kind of been putting it off because even though so many people rave about it, it's literary fiction, which is not always my favorite. I like literary fiction, but sometimes I get a little bored with it. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite, but it did have some like interesting plot points and I think it had a good message overall. What it's about is Sam and Sadie met as kids. Sam was in the hospital for an accident that he was in, and Sadie's sister was in that same children's hospital for cancer. So the 2 of them met in this little like game room that the hospital had, and they kind of bonded over video games, became really fast friends, and then they had a sort of a falling out and then didn't speak to each other for years until they ran into each other in a subway. He went to Harvard and she went to MIT, or vice versa, I can't remember, but the 2 colleges are close to each other. They start talking again and they both still love video games and decide that they want to create video games together. So that's basically the premise, and then it talks all about them creating this company and kind of the trials and tribulations of the company and everything that they go through. It's definitely interesting. It's something different than what I've read before. I see why a lot of people liked it, but I think a lot of the plot went over my head just because there was a lot of talk of like video games and technology stuff, and like that's not something I'm super well versed in. I did like it and I would recommend it to people, but it wasn't my absolute favorite. This was definitely my most anticipated read of the year so far, and I'm literally so obsessed with this book. First of all, I have to say I gave it 5 stars. Oh, I never said Emily Henry, Happy Place, obviously. First of all, cover, obsessed. I'm not a pink girl, but this cover is beautiful. Emily Henry, literally one of my favorite authors of all time. I love every single one of her books I've ever read, and this book is no exception to that. I have never seen myself in a character as much as I see myself in Harriet. Basically, the plot of this story is Harriet and Wynne are in a friend group of 6 people, and they go every year to this cottage that Sabrina's dad owns in Maine. You get the past of their friendships with each other, of Harriet and Wynne meeting, falling in love, all that kind of stuff. You get the present 10 years later when they go to this house for the last time because Sabrina tells them that her dad is selling the house, so this will be the last trip that they take. Also, Harriet and Wynne have broken up. They were engaged and had been together for 10 years and have broken up and had not told their friends yet. So this whole trip, they want it to be special, especially since it's the last one, so they decide that they're just going to fake date the whole week. This is more than a romance book to me. Like normally romance books, I'm just like, oh, cute, fun, whatever. Something Emily Henry does in her writing is she makes them so much deeper. Like there is so much struggle. You get to learn so much about both Wynne and Harriet, and there's so much talk about like adult friendships and I mean, all these people met in college and then it's 10 years later and how their friendships have grown and changed. And the period I'm in my life right now, like I graduated college a year ago and I'm navigating these friendships and how to continue these friendships when you live in different parts of the country. And this book, I'm gonna cry thinking about it, honestly. Like, I want to reread this book already, and I do not usually reread books. Like, usually I'm like, one time is good for me, but I like already want to reread this book after a month because I just loved it so much. The quotes are so good. Harriet is just literally like, I just feel for her so much in this book. I don't know what else I can say to like make someone read this. Like, please read this. If you're a Taylor Swift fan, Mirrorball, this is me trying. That's all I gotta say. Read this book. You will be obsessed, I promise. Next, I went on a pretty big Abby Jimenez binge. I read Part of Your World back in January or February, I think, and it like re-sparked my love for Abby Jimenez. I'll talk about it later, but one of the books that I read this month, I actually read like several years ago. Then when I read Part of Your World, I was like, I forgot how much I love her writing, and then I literally went on a binge and read the rest of the books that she has currently out. So this is yours truly. Got this from Book of the Month. This is a new release, I believe. This is Brianna and Jacob. I can never remember characters' names. I would like be in the middle of reading a book and I'm like, what is their name? I don't know. Brianna and Jacob are both doctors. Jacob just started as an ER doctor at the hospital that Brianna works at, and she is closed off to love. She just went through a divorce. She's like not interested. And Jacob has super bad social anxiety. And so on the outside, he seems kind of like this asshole, and he made a really bad first impression at this hospital. But you get his point of view where you find out the reason he's acting this way is he just has such bad social anxiety. He also went through a pretty bad breakup. You get that side of him, which I personally really like. I feel like Abby Jimenez does a very good job of writing those sort of like deep feelings and making these characters feel so real. Like, you really connect with them. You feel so bad for Jacob, like especially if you're someone that has social anxiety. Like, you really feel for him and you understand what he's going through. Anna decides to give him a chance. Even though they had a rough start, she decides to kind of give him a chance, and they start writing notes back and forth, just becoming friends. And Jacob gets in a situation where he basically needs a girlfriend. So he asks Brianna if she will fake date him. So there's fake dating trope, which I've realized I've read a lot of fake dating recently. I'm like thinking it's becoming my new favorite trope. Like, I'm absolutely obsessed with it. There's another big plot point that goes on in Brianna's personal life. I won't talk about it because it's kind of a spoiler, but that also adds to this kind of like tension, and can tell that they both like each other, but they're both nervous, and it's just literally so good. I'm obsessed with it. The way that Brianna stands up for Jacob is just like, oh, I just love it so much. And I love Jacob. He's such a good character. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I gave this 4 stars. So like I said, I then went on an Abby Jimenez binge. So the next book I read is The Friend Zone, which this is the one I actually read probably like 3 or 4 years ago. I honestly can't remember. But I wanted to read the rest of the series of this. So I reread this because it'd been a while and I didn't really remember what happened. They are all standalones. You don't have to read them in order, but the characters do kind of carry over. So it is helpful to read them. This is about Kristen and Josh. They meet because both of their best friends are engaged. Kristen runs this like dog business, and she needs a new carpenter, and her carpenter just quit. So she asks Josh to be her carpenter, and they kind of form this friendship. But the issue is Kristen has a boyfriend who's in the military, and she only sees him like 2 weeks at a time, and he's currently overseas. So she's like, can't be with him, even though she starts to kind of be attracted to Josh, and like they form this really good bond and banter. At the same time, you get Josh's perspective and you see that he really starts to fall for her and he really wants to be with her, but she keeps saying no, like can't be with you, whatever, because obviously of the boyfriend situation, but also because Josh says all the time how much he wants kids. And Kristen is unable to have kids. She has, I think, ovarian cyst or something. Actually gonna end up getting a hysterectomy. So she's like, nope, can't be together. You want kids. That's way too important in your life. So there's kind of this big miscommunication between them the whole time, where like he wants her so badly and he wants to be with her, and she is not telling him why. And you kind of get frustrated with her, which is why I only gave this 3.5 stars, because at some point you're like, can she just finally tell him and like let this man choose for himself? Because he clearly loves her so much that he's like willing to do anything to be with her. So that's kind of why I gave it 3.5. I remember when I first read it, I loved it way more. And now when I read it, like, I don't know, there's just some parts that I was just like, didn't really love. Like things just weren't clicking for me. I still think it's good and I would totally recommend it. And like I said, I love Abby's writing, but this one just wasn't like my favorite of her books. Then I read the Happy Ever After playlist. This is the next book in that series, and this is about Sloane, the best friend of Kristen from the friend zone. This is her love story with Jason. So something happens in the friend zone, which is kind of a big plot point, so I can't really like say what it is, but something happens there, and now she is single and she's kind of closed off from love, doesn't really like want a relationship at the moment. She is driving and this dog runs out in front of her car, and she tries calling the owner over and over again, and this owner is like not answering, and she's like, what the hell, I'm keeping this dog, basically. Finally, the owner calls and it's Jason, and Jason was on a trip in Australia or something, didn't have access to his phone, basically calls her back and is like, I had a friend that was supposed to be watching my dog for me. Clearly she didn't do a good job. I'm not gonna be back for 2 weeks. Like, he's like, I will pay for you to take the dog to a border. And Sloane is like, no, I actually like love this dog. She's like, I'll keep your dog. So she's watching his dog for the weeks until he gets back, and they keep texting, having calls, like they strike up this little like flirtation. It's super cute. It's kind of almost insta-lovey. But then you find out when the two of them meet that Jason is a super famous musician. And then it's kind of them navigating like him being famous and her overcoming this hurt and this past that she has. It's just really cute. I think this is the first book I've read with the One of Us is Famous trope, and I actually really liked it. It kind of reminded me of a fan fiction because of that, like reminded me of like OG like One Direction fan fictions, but I thought it was really cute. I gave it 4 stars. Jason is literally the perfect guy. Like, I love Jason so much. He's so sweet. He loves her so much. Of course, there's miscommunication and things happen, but I just thought this book was really cute, very refreshing, very easy read. So the last book in the series is Life's Too Short, and this is about Adrian. He is the cousin of Josh. So he's mentioned in the friend zone, and then also it's really fun because you get both couples from the other 2 books mentioned in this book, and it kind of just makes it like a full circle moment. This is about Adrian. He lives next door to Vanessa, and she is a famous YouTuber travel blogger, but she's currently at home with her sister's baby. Her sister is a drug addict, and she ended up with custody of her sister's baby. The 2 of them strike up a friendship. He kind of helps her out with the baby, and it's really cute. Like, I just really love them. First of all, Adrian, I feel like I said this about the other 2 guys too, but they're so perfect. You can tell he literally loves her so much. And they both have like family issues that they help each other work through. And they just have this really sweet friendship. Because it's dual POV, you see that they're both falling in love with each other, but they have reasons that they can't be together. The biggest one is Vanessa had both her mom and her sister die before the age of 30, and at 29, she like has it in her head that she's also going to die before the age of 30. So she's kind of like closed herself off from love. She's like, I'm not gonna fall in love, because she thinks that it's gonna happen to her as well. So there's a lot of like overcoming that trauma, and he just wants to be with her so bad. It's a very cute, again, easy read. I gave this one 4 stars. Then we have Icebreaker. I literally loved this book so much. Like, I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, because everyone I heard talking about it was like, oh, this book is good, but it's like just like spicy, and like I wasn't expecting it to be deep. Like, I thought it was gonna just be like an easy, spicy, fun read, which it is. Trust me. Be warned. There's spice in here. But I literally love Nate Hawkins. I think he is my dream book boyfriend. This man, perfect. Literally perfect. Anastasia is an ice skater and Nate is a hockey player at the same college. Hockey rink, basically something happens and they can't use it for the rest of the season. So the 2 of them, he's the captain of the hockey team, she's the captain of the ice skating team, and they have to work together to basically use the same rink. Hockey team is like gearing up for like a big season, and she is training for the Olympics. So there's like a lot riding on this. Basically, she doesn't want to be in a relationship. She's like solely focused on school and like going to the Olympics and all this stuff. And he is immediately attracted to her. He immediately like wants to be with her, but she kind of like pushes him off. There's just so much like good like found family in this for both the teams, the hockey team. And when Anastasia's partner, her ice skating partner, gets injured, Nate agrees to help her. And it's just like so cute. Like, I love their story. It's very cliche. Again, this one kind of reminds me of like fan fiction for some reason. But I'm like obsessed, and I now need to read more hockey romance or just sports romances in general, because this book was so good. I literally gave it 4.5 stars. Like, I loved it. It's a big book. It's like 400 something pages, and I read it pretty quick because I literally could not put this book down. Next, I read The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. I really want to get into more thriller mysteries. Like, I love watching like crime shows and like crime documentaries, so I was like, okay, well, I should be reading like thrillers, because I'm usually a romance girly, but I was like, all right, I need to dive into this. And I've heard good things, especially about Lucy Foley, and I'd also heard pretty good things about this book, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna dive into this. Basically, this is about a wedding that takes place on not a deserted island, but it's like an island off the coast of Ireland, and not a lot of people go there. And so there is this wedding, and you find out in the beginning of the book that somebody dies. And so then the whole book is kind of leading up to figure out who died and who killed them, obviously. It's kind of hard to describe this book without giving away like what happens. I will say it started pretty slow. And by started, I mean like the first 200 pages. I was honestly kind of forcing myself to read this. It was just like, it was all this like build up and like introducing the characters and introducing the situation, which I understand you have to do, but it felt like it just dragged on for so long. I was like, when are we getting the action? When are we getting the plot twists? Like, I was just waiting for it, and they didn't come until like literally 200 something pages in. And this book is only 300 pages. So it was like the last 80 to 90 pages were really, really good. And that's why I rated it 3.5 stars. But it was just like, I don't know, it just felt so slow and like dragged out. Like, if the whole book would have been like the last 80 to 90 pages, I totally could have seen myself rating this like 5 stars, honestly. But it was just like dragged out and kind of boring. I definitely want to read more of her stuff though. I've heard The Paris Apartment is really good, and I do want to read more thrillers and mysteries. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know. But I don't know, this one just didn't quite hit for me. The last book I read for this month was The Reunion by Kayla Olson. I got this as my book of the month a couple months ago, and I've not heard like anyone talk about this. I even looked it up on Goodreads, and there was like hardly any reviews. So I was a little nervous going in, and I'm gonna be honest, it didn't really hit for me. I gave it 3 stars, and I'm kind of thinking I should have gave it even less. Now that I'm thinking back on it, it just, I don't know, something about it didn't hit for me. It felt like very boring. I feel like that's mean, but it just like, I feel like there wasn't a whole lot going on. Basically, the plot is there was a TV show, and it kind of gives me like Friends vibes. Like, it was like literally one of the most famous TV shows. Like, the actors and actresses are like wildly famous, and it is now 14 years after the show wrapped, and they are doing a reunion episode. So Liv is the main character, and the main guy, who was kind of her love interest in the show, is Ransom, which first of all, I hate the name Ransom. Every time I read it in this book, I was like, I can't do it. So Liv and Ransom were best friends during the filming of the show. It went on for 6 years. They were best friends, like basically dating, but they weren't. And then you find out towards the end of the show filming that they had a falling out and then didn't speak for 14 years. So now it's 20 years after the start of the show, 14 years since they've spoken, and they meet again for the first time. And it's almost like they instantly fall back in love. And it's kind of weird because it's like they don't even have like a discussion about what happened, it seems like. And I think that was the biggest, like, it was like a plot hole for me. I was like, are we not gonna address that, like, you guys didn't talk for 14 years? It was almost like they immediately jumped back into being like in love and being best friends and like admitting their feelings for each other. And I'm just like, wait, hold on, like, why aren't we talking about this? There was like a very small subplot of their romance, but for the most part, it was just her deciding like what future project she's gonna do as an actress, and if she wants to do a full reunion show. Like, this is what they're filming for is just one reunion like episode, like an hour-long episode, but there's talks of potentially like making a whole reboot, and a lot of it is just her deciding if she wants to do a reboot, which I feel like it was kind of dragged out. I don't know, it didn't really hit for me. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars, and honestly, I'm kind of thinking now it was more like 2.5, maybe 2.75. Like, there were some good parts, but I kind of had forced myself to finish it, which I hate doing with books. I feel like I talked for literally so long, so I need to just wrap this up. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, next I will be posting my Taylor Swift vlog, so keep an eye out for that. thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.